2022 NBA Draft, the Miami Heat select Nikola Jovic, not Jokic, out of Serbia. We'll break down his strengths and weaknesses, how he could potentially fit on this roster, and take your questions today on this live edition of Locked On Heat.
You are Locked On Heat, your daily Miami Heat podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, Heat Nation of Locked On Heat, your daily podcast covering all things Miami Heat. However, you may be listening or watching on YouTube, Odyssey, or in your favorite podcast app. Thanks so much for making us your first listen every day. I'm David Ramil, and with me, as always, is my co-host, Wes Goldberg. We're going live following the NBA draft. Of course, Miami selecting 27th overall in this year's draft. We did our big board yesterday. We looked at a number of key players, some of which were taken earlier than we thought, some of which are still on the board, even as we're recording this right now. And the Miami Heat came from out of nowhere, surprising both of us with the 27th pick, selecting Nikola Jovic out of Serbia. He played internationally. He's a 6'11", forward-type player. I guess he's not quite a center. Yeah. He's not quite a wing either. He's a competent ball handler. Just turned 19 a few days ago. Very, very young. A promising prospect. We didn't really do a blue notebook, a detailed scouting on him. But what have you seen, Wes, as far as anything that you like or dislike about Jovic?
Just a guy with really great touch. I mean, not to be, labeled this guy too easily, but like the European touch feel for the game, it's all right there. He's a ball movement guy. He's got really great shooting touch from the perimeter and things like that. You notice it with his ball handling. You notice it with the hit aheads, what he's able to do in transition, outlet passes, all these things. He's just a guy. He's really tall, 6'11", 7-foot wingspan with great ball skills and great touch overall. And to me, this was an upside play by the Miami Heat. Other guys that were on the board who you and I really liked that we put on the top of our big boards, right? EJ Liddell out of Ohio State, sort of a plug-and-play power forward there. He was still available. Jaden Hardy out of the G League Ignite, the second-ranked prospect coming out of high school in this class, obviously fell out of the first round completely, was still on the board. And you and I really liked him too and his shooting touch and all this. But the Heat go, I think, with the guy who had even more upside than any of them in Jovic, when you consider his height, when you consider the position that he plays, and if he pans out, his potential fit with Bam Adebayo is perfect. Rather than look for a PJ Tucker replacement, whether or not PJ goes to Philadelphia or stays in Miami, they're going to need a replacement at some point for him. But rather than go for the PJ Tucker model and EJ Liddell, they go for a guy who's a little obviously different in Jovic, but could potentially be an even better fit next to Bam because he's a legit floor spacer, because he's a legit passer, and because there's so much potential there and capacity for him to get better on offense. This isn't a guy who's like just a 6'11" guy who's going to stand in the corner and make threes. He could dribble more than once. He can attack closeouts. He could take the ball in transition. There's a lot to like there, and I actually really like the fit for him in Miami because I think they're one of the organizations that can get the most out of him.
Gotta be honest, I'm really surprised by the selection. Miami just looked at the European market in a long, long time. It's been decades since they've selected a European player in the draft and has tend to shy away from them. I'm not sure if it's they don't trust their scouting necessarily or if they just trust the collegiate system. I'm not exactly sure. Yet they just kind of stayed away from this. And then you look at Jovic, and my immediate concern is he's undersized. Like the lateral speed isn't there. He's a little underweight. He's got the frame to put on more weight, but I thought, given Jimmy Butler and his current window and what they're looking to accomplish, they needed somebody that was more of a plug-in type player, a Liddell type player, a guy who could fit the mold right away and just take off running. I'm not sure I see that from Jovic. I think he's more of a bench player. Having said all that, you've got to trust what the Miami Heat do. They can figure it out. If they see something in this kid that they're willing to just cast aside decades of ignoring the European market in order to select him because they see his talent. And to your point, I think he's a fantastic fit, or projects to be a fantastic fit alongside Bam Adebayo. I think they're believers in his shooting. He showed some real promise at the combine and his workouts and things of that sort. He's got some really nice shooting touch. He's a smooth mechanics on his release and everything else like that. He's going to be that stretch big playing alongside Bam eventually. Right now, I just don't see it. He's probably going to be coming off the bench. But to my point, though,
Yeah.
I think you have to trust what Miami does. They know what they're doing. They see the fit. They see the bigger picture, one that not all of us are privy to.
I don't know that even if you draft EJ Liddell, he's the guy. Like, we kind of view him as this plug and play kind of player, but he dropped out of the first round completely, and I think that's because of
still hasn't been selected.
Yeah, and larger concerns about his upside probably, but to expect any rookie to come in and contribute right away is a little foolhardy, if you ask me. I don't know that there are any rookies that are really going to come in outside of like the top 3 or 4 or 5 guys in this draft. Like, you're picking at 27, you can't really expect anybody at that point to contribute right away, EJ Liddell or otherwise. And so, if that's the case, why not go with the big swing here? I really like it. This is a guy who was not ranked 27 on really any of the experts' boards, right? He was ranked much higher in many respects. A lot of people really like his game. He's not Nikola Jovic, right? That's not his game. He's more of like, he's kind of like Danilo Gallinari that could do with a little bit more upside, I would even say, offensively because of his passing. And Gallinari is just sort of a fine passer. He's more of sort of a I'll take my own shot when I get it kind of guy, where Jovic is more of that unselfish type of playmaker. He's also a really great cutter. Like, there's going to be things that he can contribute right away. I think the NBA range is there right now. He's not going to start. He's probably not even going to have like a real rotation role every single night as a rookie, but I don't know anybody that you pick at 27 is going to have that. But when he does get minutes, he's going to be able to make open threes. He's a really smart cutter. He's a really smart passer. They'll just fit offensively. And defensively, yeah, he needs to put on more weight. The lateral quickness needs to get better. His overall focus, like in the ABA, in the Adriatic League where he played for Megabasket, I don't know that they really cared a whole lot about defense anyway. You put him in Miami, he's going to have to care about defense. And that's going to be the coaching. You always say this, like, Eric Spoelstra can get you 30% better defensively no matter what. I think that's going to be the case. You just got to get him to buy in. I think a guy with that much basketball IQ has the capacity to be good defensively. And he's light on his feet, and there's stuff that you like there. It's just a matter of kind of, refining that part of his game. But I don't know, the more. I was surprised by this pick, just like you were. It was not a guy that you and I talked a whole lot about going into this thing, but the more I think about it, the more I really like this pick for the Heat as an upside play. Because why not? You're picking at 27. Why not go for the upside swing?
Yeah, Jaden Hardy just selected by the Sacramento Kings. Let's hope they don't botch that one, because we both like Hardy's upside as a scorer, but alas, he will not be doing it for the Miami Heat. However, we still have to look at Jovic's potential impact, where he'll fit in on this lineup. Again, I think both of us expect him to be coming off the bench in the short term, with some long-term benefits there of him continuing to develop and grow within the Miami Heat system, just because he has all the tools, because he is that offensive player, because defensively he can improve and he can eventually play NBA-level defense. But for now, we'll take a little bit of a pause and just remind you that we've got big news, because the one and only NBA Jam is back. Arcade One Up, the leader in home retro arcade games, is not only bringing the best game ever back, but they've made it bigger than ever with a, wait for it, Shaq Edition machine. That's right. People are obsessed with NBA Jam and have been for a long time, and I'm thrilled to tell our listeners that you can once again play hoops with NBA legends in this arcade classic. Who would represent the Heat? Is it Jimmy Butler, Bam, Jimmy Butler, Tyler Hero? I wonder who would be exactly. Maybe
Jimmy and Bam.
Even if you, I'm sorry?
Jimmy and Bam.
Jimmy and Bam. Hey, could you get like a Legends pick? Maybe like get Dwayne Wade, or maybe even LeBron or Alonzo Mourning. That would be pretty cool. You can jump clear across the court and set the ball on fire in one of the first sports games ever to feature real and digitized NBA licensed teams. No fouls, no free throws, and no quarters required. You can compete with friends and family through the all-new Wi-Fi leaderboards, making you more connected than ever. You can pre-order now from arcade1up.com. That's arcade, the number 1, up.com for an estimated early September ship date. Arcade One Up is the place for fun. They've got even more classics like Golden Tee, Mortal Kombat, and many others starting at just $3.99. Check it out. They're also giving away a NBA Jam Shaq Edition to a Locked On listener. Enter for a chance to win a game console for your man cave or anywhere else at arcade1up.com/lockedon. That's arcade1up.com/lockedon. You've got till July 8th to enter to win NBA Jam's Shaq Edition console. Don't miss out. Enter today. Who are you going to play with? For joining us live, we'll be continuing our coverage of the draft throughout the night. And of course, we'll be having just more assessment of what Jovic can do. And of course, we'll be leading into Summer League, where both you and I will be in attendance. We'll also be, of course, monitoring free agency and everything else. So continue to subscribe to Locked On Heat wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube to get the best coverage possible. Here we are in this live edition of Locked On Heat as the draft is still taking place. A bit of a shocker as Miami takes the number 27 overall pick. He's coming off the bench, right? And when you look at what his most obvious weakness is, which is on the defensive end. Offensively, I think he'll be able to, as you said, he's got enough skills with the ball where he can put it down on the ground, get to the rim, post up a little bit, take that fadeaway jumper. He's got that in his repertoire. He's got the shot from the corner, so that's certainly there. But given that right now Tyler Hero is an obvious defensive liability off the bench, can you afford to have both him and Hero out on the floor at the same time? Maybe that's too deep a dive right now at this point. I mean,
no, I think it's fair to discuss where he kind of fits in the rotation. We actually got a question about that too. We could put that up right now. But
all right, continue to send in your questions because we'll be answering them throughout the show, especially in the next segment. So make sure you send those in right now.
Unless Tyler Hero starts, and maybe it's less of a concern. The other thing about Jovic is, look, I have not gone overseas and scouted him and watched every Mega Basket game. I'll admit that. But he's at least big, right? And I'm sure there's ways to figure, like, I don't think that he's going to be a complete liability on defense. If you can get him to buy in, you can get him to catch up. Like, he's more nimble than even an Omer Yurtseven is on the perimeter or whatever. And so I don't know. I really don't think the Heat were thinking about it, though. I don't think that they care about the pairing of him and Tyler Hero defensively off the bench. I don't know that they have a plan for him right now. I just think that they saw a guy with immense upside. If we were going to do our upside scale for Jovic right now, like, there is I'm not ready to, like, give you an exact percentage right now, but there's a non-zero chance that he ends up being an all-star. I mean, he's got that level of feel and skill level where you can't rule that out. Could he be a complete bust? Yeah, sure. Absolutely. But I think this is the Heat banking not only on their developmental system, and this is something you and I talked about. We love the Gabe Vincent stories, the Max Strus stories, the Caleb Martin stories. Give them something like this with a player with this size, with this skill level, with this feel, with this basketball IQ and all this. And this is an organization that took undrafted guys who might have not been in the league if not for the Heat's developmental program. You give them this raw piece of clay with so much upside. Just imagine what this developmental program can do with something like this. And so, I don't think they care about where he fits.
I see a lot of people. Yeah, I see a lot of people asking this. They're keeping the pick. They wouldn't tweet it out. They wouldn't already talk about, they wouldn't post a hype video or anything like that if they weren't going to keep him. They did this a couple of years ago when Miami, again, a team that's been notorious for trading away picks on draft night, they selected Justice Winslow in the first round. Happy to keep him, of course. And then they take Josh Richardson, somebody not really many people had heard about as a second rounder. Again, nobody really saw him and his immediate fit in the league. His jersey at the Heat store, formerly at the American Airlines Arena, within a day or two. So that's usually a good indicator that they're going to keep the pick. And I think Miami thoroughly behind keeping Jovic because, as you've been pointing out, there is that upside. He's got ball handling skills at his size that make him a unicorn of sorts. And I know that's a term that's lost a lot of its luster because basically it's something different as a ball handler or wing type player. But this is how he grew up. He grew up as a guard. He's also only been playing basketball for about 5 years. He started playing basketball at 13. He was a volleyball player before that, and he just started playing ball. So they really are a believer in how much growth he's shown over the last 5 years and that he'll continue to show even more growth moving forward. And look, you combine the skill set that's already there, the fact that he's younger than even Tyler Hero was when the Heat drafted him, and the fact that Miami's development system is basically second to none. all those factors putting together, and you've got the potential, as you said, for an all-star down the road. A great compliment to Bam because they believe in his shooting. Yes, like you said. I mean, I like that you're saying that you're balancing it out. Could he be a bust? Hell, every player in this draft, even if you're picked number one, like there were people complaining about Joel being a bust because given his injury issues and everything else like that. Like there's always that potential, but what you're seeing is a player that's almost basically just 19, just turned 19, who can do a lot of things at 6'11 that some guards can't do as easily as he can. He can shoot, he can space the floor, he's got the high IQ, and he's only been playing ball for a limited amount of time. If it all pans out right, and Miami must have seen something, must have believed in him and that work ethic. We had no idea who the hell Bam Adebayo was or what his skill set was when he first was drafted by the Heat. I remember that draft night, a similar show to this. We're going, Bam, why? You've got Hassan Whiteside. Eventually, they wind up signing Kelly Olynyk and just made no sense to draft better. But yet here they were. Your story's about to work out, the attitude and everything else.
Yeah.
Like they must believe that this kid is a winner. Go ahead.
Pat Riley, about the 27th pick in regards to whether or not he was trying to trade it. This is from Anthony Chang on Twitter. I would rather get the player now, develop him. There wasn't really anything that was that exciting, so we decided to use the pick. That's it. It's so easy for fans to be like, you should trade the pick. Why aren't you trading the pick and getting something? Sometimes, like, trade it for what? You know, sometimes the trade just isn't there. And if you're the Heat, you just go with the guy who you're most comfortable with taking. And in this instance, they did. And I don't know, like, look, I don't know if a trade doesn't come down the line where they need to move somebody like Jovic. And that's the other part of this too, is because of his upside, maybe he's a little bit more enticing than in a potential trade package than a guy like EJ Liddell. But really, I think what this is the eventual partnership with Bam Adebayo. You mentioned the names, Kelly Olynyk, Jay Crowder, PJ Tucker. You could even go with some of the guys in between that, Trevor Ariza, whatever. They have been, they tried playing Bam next to Hassan Whiteside. Right? They've been cycling through guys as a front court partner with Bam Adebayo for years and have never quite gotten it right. I think Jay Crowder was probably the closest, but he was a free agent and he left, so it wasn't quite right. PJ Tucker is right, but there were times in the playoffs where you couldn't play PJ and Bam on the floor at the same time, right? We saw that because there's a little bit of a lack of size, because even though PJ is a good corner three-point shooter, nobody really closes out on him anyway. And even if PJ Tucker does re-sign, he's 37 years old. So you need to start planning for whatever it is afterwards. And that's what this is. It's Jovic and Bam. And if you can get him to be at least average defensively, because Bam is all NBA, maybe best defensive player in the league defensively. And he's the guy who could space the floor, make plays. And now you've got two playmakers at that position. Jovic is an NBA-ready passer right now. Bam Adebayo, we know, is a really an elite playmaker at his position. Like, you can get these two guys in the front court, problem solved. And this is like, this is very much forward-looking too, because when you look at where the NBA is trending, it's big guys who are super skilled with the ball in their hands, and that's what Jovic projects to be. Okay, that's exactly what he projects to be. And if you could have two of those guys between him and Bam, now you're really looking at something here. And so it doesn't mean that it's going to pan out, but it's worth a shot here at 27. Just like Pat Riley said, it's the best option on the board. Just go for it. See what happens. Trust your developmental program.
Yeah. I keep reiterating that I was greatly surprised by this. You bring up a good point that maybe nobody at 27 was going to be that immediate plug and play, player. Go ahead and have him contribute to Miami's success. So why not go for the guy who chip in somewhere on the rotation? And I'm not sure exactly
the other guy would have been.
But
like the other guy would have been Jaden Hardy, right? When you're just talking about upside, if it's just an upside factor. But the thing with Hardy, even though you and I really like him and his 3-point shot and all that, where does he get minutes? Like Tyler Hero is still on this roster. All these things, like where are you really get Gabe Vincent? Like where are you getting Hardy any minutes? Where with Jovic, I could see him playing 8 minutes a game, 10 minutes a game in the first half, something like that. You know, regular season, it's different. He'll play a bunch of random times in the regular season. You need guys to fill time. In the playoffs, he probably is not going to be a rotation guy, but fine, whatever. Who cares? Doesn't matter. That's not, you don't pick him for this. I still think that he could go out and get another guy, another big man, either another backup center if Dwayne Dedmon doesn't re-sign, depending on what they think about Omer Yurtsevic's role next year, depending on what happens with PJ Tucker, obviously. Do you need to replace PJ? I think you could still use a backup for PJ. Still all this stuff. I mean, but this is right now a really strong upside play for them. Can we talk about his nickname?
What is his nickname? What is it?
Well, everybody wants to call him like Nikola Jovic only because the name is it's like the same except for one letter. So instead of the Joker, could just call him the Jover?
Nope.
No.
That's not gonna fly.
You never like any of my nicknames.
That's the Jover. Like I don't even know what that means. Like
it's like the Joker, but you switch the one thing that's different. The Jover.
No.
How about the Jover?
No.
All right.
I think this joke is over. I don't get it. Sorry. I was just gonna say this probably signifies the likely departure of Markeith Morris. Unfortunately.
Yes. No, I mean I think we kind of figured that already, but definitely.
He doesn't slot as a center, right? He's not physical enough, and if you've got concern, like Deadman, if for anything else, was a adequate rebounder and had the legitimate size, I don't think the Jover is going to be able to fit in there as a center.
The yogurt.
The yogurt. Oof, that sounds even worse.
I don't like it either.
White and pasty. Yeah, I don't think so. I don't know, man.
No.
We got to think about it. We're taking suggestions, but
we are, I guess.
JoJo. Yeah.
JoJo's no, but to the point.
Jojo Rabbit, right? Isn't that a movie? That movie that came out. Anyway.
Jovic is probably not playing center anytime soon. It doesn't mean that he can't. I think that eventually, when he puts on weight, right? You put him in the Heat developmental program, all these, or whatever NBA weight program. Once he puts on some muscle and some mass, I think him and Bam can almost be interchangeable depending on the matchup. You know, it's probably going to be 3 years down the line for Jovic to get to that level of size. But depending on the matchup, they could be interchangeable, considering how switchable Bam is, and the fact that Bam could guard all 5 positions. So, not now. He's probably not getting any minutes at center right now, but down the line, sure, why not? I think it's possible. Should we get to some questions?
I think so. We'll get to those in the next segment. Also, just looking ahead, I think it probably still allows for some much necessary room for growth for Omer Yurtseven. There's still a clear role for him to take over as the backup big, potentially even playing alongside Bam Adebayo in certain lineups. So there's an opportunity there. The selection of Jovic doesn't force Yurtseven out of the rotation or by any stretch of the imagination. So I think there's still a potential there. And even there a potential for both of them to be out there. They both got touch. They both got shooting range. That's a nice combination, right? I mean, you're looking at Bam and you're saying, well, what's the one thing he needs to do is probably stretch the floor to some degree. Continue. I know you've been obsessed with it all year, and of course you pissed off Eric Spoelstra one too many times, but he probably needs to shoot to 3. But Jovic already capable of doing so alongside Yurtseven. So it's good to be able to see length, at least from those two guys, and being able to stretch the floor too. Stretch bigs. At least Jovic can handle the ball and get to the rim a little bit more easily. And he's got, I think you pointed this out, a little bit more fluid than Yurtseven is. But we'll take some of your questions, so continue to send those in. But before we do that, just a reminder that BetOnline.net is your number one source for all of your betting needs and sports info. You can find all the latest sports developments, league reviews, and news, including this year's NHL playoffs and Major League Baseball. BetOnline is your continued source for all of your sporting wagering information, including live betting, esports, and scores. And betonline.net remains the best spot for all of your sports scores, podcasts, and news this season. Betonline.net is the fastest and easiest way to check out all of your favorite sports and events, including MMA, boxing, and golf. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in action. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, we're finishing up our live edition of Locked On as we continue to cover the NBA draft. Nikola Jovic selected number 27 by the Miami Heat. How does he fit in? You've got questions and concerns. We'll answer them to the best of our ability. Continue to send those in, and you can always reach us as well via email at lockedonheat@gmail.com, and make sure to follow us on Twitter and wherever you get podcasts. Let's get to some of these questions, Wes. What do you got?
Sure. Let's start with, I like this one. It's not much of a question as much of a comment, but JRocks239 still needs somebody who can create their own shots without Bam providing help. And I think when you going back to Jovic and the potential there, I think that's what we're really talking about, is a guy who can create his own shot. 6'11", 7-foot wingspan, 9-foot standing reach. you watch the tape on this guy, and his release is a high one, right? It's not like quite LaMarcus Aldridge, but it's a little like Dirk Nowitzki, right? Where he gets it right up over his face, and it's going to be a tough shot to block. I really like Jovic's ability to not only spread the floor, but when he's going to be pigeonholed, I think, as sort of a standstill floor spacer by most opposing scouting reports. And I think that's going to be a mistake because he's a guy who can attack closeouts with multiple dribbles. He's got he's got nice spin moves. He's got he's a crafty finisher at the basket. I think he can do quite a bit on offense with the ball in his hands.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think there's certainly potential there. They love his offense. That's his strength. That's the biggest strength that he's shown. And again, 5 years of just limited playing professional. I mean, it's obviously not making the same comparison. But when you look at the kid out of Dallas, he's not bad. He'd been playing professionally for some time too, and you had questions about the level of athleticism and the competition and things of that sort. But he's turned out to be a pretty solid NBA player. What's next in our questions here?
In my opinion, he's a small forward that he can be turned into a power forward. I've seen quite a bit of this. Like, what forward position is he? I don't know that he's a small forward right now. I really just think in today's NBA, he's probably going to be a 4. That's just where I think he is. But I don't know. Just defensively, I don't see him guarding like actual wings and ball handlers. I think he's going to be limited in that respect. So he's probably more of a 4. The real question is that whether he's staying or going. I think you and I agree that he is staying at this point. I'm going to give you a second chance here, David. Give me some good news about the pick. I doubt he will be getting any playing time this year. You and I agree that he's probably going to be limited in playing time. He'll get some playing time in the regular season. In the playoffs, he's not going to be a factor in the rotation, probably. But what's the good news? Everybody knows that I'm high on this pick at this point. Where are you now?
I'm getting there.
Around now that we've talked through it, you're getting there.
I'm getting there. Look, I see the potential. I mean, again, I guess I like the idea of Liddell, and maybe I bought into the Heat culture a little bit too much too, just hearing him talking, the things he's saying, and good luck to him in New Orleans because apparently that's where he's been selected. But having said all that, I thought he would be a player. Reading the tea leaves and seeing the potential for PJ Tucker's departure, you'd think maybe Liddell is a guy who could come in and fit in. But the wording by Riley that they didn't see anything was particularly exciting for them. But I guess they had concerns about his size too, being a little undersized. And yeah, maybe all the great intent. Again, it's so much of the draft is a crapshoot. But they wanted to take a chance and go for a risky pick, which is very atypical of the Heat. Again, well, at least in my opinion, I don't think Bam was as much of a risk. Although given 1 year of experience at Kentucky, nobody really knew exactly how he projected. Hero. Same thing. 1 year at Kentucky, the promise offensively, and I guess you can scout him a little bit more closely as a collegiate player. Selecting a European player is so out of the norm for Miami. And again, another guy that's so young with such limited experience, but they must really think that he's going to be able to take these skills and continue to grow them. There must be something about the work ethic and the tenacity, tangibles that they really, really like.
Well, I'm glad.
Usually what they've gravitated towards.
Yeah, and I'm glad they've gone with the European route. You look at who's just is winning MVPs. It's Giannis. It's Nikola Jovic back to back. It's these guys that are not from this country. They're from other countries, and the pool of talent is so great now in a way that it hadn't been, obviously, historically. I'm glad that the Heat are taking their shot, and they're not just writing him off because he didn't play college ball or whatever. Here's the last one we got from Tanner. Do you think the Heat will trade and get a second-round pick? We are where? We're at like the 45th pick now in the second round?
45th pick, I think so.
At this point, I don't think so. I think what we're going to be looking at is some undrafted free agents being signed with the Heat and then participating with Miami's Summer League program at this point.
Yeah, and they'll find somebody. They always do. So I would expect them to be able to bring in a couple guys, maybe somebody with some ties that they were already familiar. Again, this is the route that they've always taken. If it's a Michigan player or somebody along those lines, they've got that pipeline through Juwan Howard or other coaching staffs that they've worked with in the past. If a Kentucky guy slips or something like that, they're more than likely to bring them in just because there's a familiarity, a comfort level that they're they can fit into Heat culture, that they've shown what it takes to take it to that next level. But as always, we'll continue to cover that and we'll break going to try and wrap it up a little bit because we've got to go jump on a Zoom talk to number 27 himself, the Jover. I don't like it. Sorry, that's not going to stick around. But thanks so much to everybody who joined us on today's show. Continue to follow us and support us, and make sure you subscribe to our show. That'll do it for us. Thanks so much for joining me, Wes.
Wrap it up, B.